The night my parents showed up at my door, I almost didn't recognize them. Not because they looked older, everyone does after 15 years, but because they were standing there like strangers, holding a suitcase and acting like they still had a right to come inside. I stood frozen in my hallway, listening to the soft hum of the security camera above my porch. My son was asleep upstairs. My life was finally quiet, finally safe. Then my mother's voice cracked through the door. "Emily, please, we just need to talk." My hand tightened on the lock because the last time we talked, I was 19, pregnant, and my father threw my clothes into a trash bag like I was garbage. And now they were back, at my home, in the middle of the night. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments about which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. My name is Emily, and 15 years ago, my parents kicked me out of their house because they were afraid of what people would say. Not because they didn't have space, not because they couldn't afford another mouth to feed, not because I did anything cruel. I was just pregnant. In our town, that was a scandal you didn't survive. We lived in a clean little neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. Trim lawns, white fences, church on Sundays, and neighbors who smiled at you while judging every single step you took. My mother, Linda, cared more about reputation than oxygen. My father, Richard, cared about one thing: control. I was their good daughter, honor roll, quiet, polite, the kind of girl adults used as an example. So when I found out I was pregnant, I truly believed deep down that being honest would soften the blow. I was wrong. It happened on a Thursday evening. I remember because my mom was making chicken pot pie, and the whole kitchen smelled like butter and comfort, like a normal life. I walked in holding the pregnancy test in my shaking hand. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something." My dad didn't look up from the newspaper. My mom wiped her hands on a towel like she already knew it would be bad. I placed the test on the table. For a second, there was only silence, thick and heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. Then my mother's face changed, not into concern, not into fear for me, into embarrassment. "Emily," she whispered, staring at the little plus sign like it was poison, "tell me this is a joke." "It's not a joke," I said. I didn't plan it, but I'm going to keep the baby." That's when my father finally looked up. His eyes weren't shocked. They were cold. "Who's the father?" he asked. I swallowed. "His name is Tyler." My mom's mouth opened like she'd been slapped. Tyler was from the other side of town. His dad worked construction. His mom waited tables. They weren't our kind of people. "Absolutely not," my mother said fast. "No, this cannot happen." "It already happened," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My father stood up so abruptly his chair scraped the floor. "You needed us," he said, pointing toward the front door, "before you humiliated this family." "I didn't do this to humiliate you," I pleaded. "I'm your daughter." My mother's eyes filled with tears, but not the kind that come from love, the kind that come from panic. "Do you know what people will say at church?" she whispered. "Do you understand what this will do to your father's job, to our name?" I stared at her, stunned. "That's what you're worried about?" My dad walked past me, opened the closet in the hallway, and pulled out a black trash bag. And then he started throwing my things into it. Shirt, jeans, sweater, like he was cleaning up a mess. "Dad, stop!" I grabbed his arm. "Please, just talk to me." He yanked away and finally said the words that still echo in my head even now. "If you step out of this house pregnant and unmarried, don't come back." My mother didn't stop him. She just stood there with her hands trembling, whispering, "We can fix this, Emily. We can fix this."
But when I looked into her eyes, I realized something terrifying. To them, I wasn't the problem. The baby was. And they were already deciding what they were willing to destroy to make the shame disappear. That night, my father dragged the trash bag to the front door and dropped it on the porch like it weighed nothing. Then he opened the door and stared at me. "Go," he said. "Now." And I swear, right as I stepped onto the porch, I heard my mother say something so quiet it almost didn't count as words. Something that made my blood run cold. Because it wasn't about me leaving, it was about making sure I could never come back. I stood on the porch with that trash bag at my feet, the cold air biting through my thin sweater, and the front door still wide open behind me like a warning. My father didn't blink. My mother hovered in the hallway, her arms wrapped around herself, crying silently, but not moving, not reaching for me, not even whispering my name. I looked at her one last time. "Mom, please," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm scared." Her lips trembled, and for a moment, I thought she might step forward. But then my father spoke again, lower this time, more final. "If you stay, you'll ruin us. If you leave, at least we can pretend you never happened." The door slammed. And just like that, I was outside with nowhere to go. I walked down the driveway in a daze, dragging the trash bag like it was the last piece of my old life. The streetlights made the neighborhood look peaceful, almost pretty. It was the kind of quiet you'd expect from a town that claimed to be family values. Yet not one porch light turned on, not one neighbor opened a door. They had all seen me grow up, and they all looked away. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and called Tyler. He answered on the second ring. "Emily?" I couldn't even speak at first. I just stood there breathing hard, trying not to cry too loud because I felt watched. "Where are you?" he asked, whispering. "My parents kicked me out. I'm outside right now." There was a pause, like he was processing the words. Then, "Stay there, I'm coming. Don't move." I waited at the end of the block, where the trees were thicker and the houses couldn't see me as clearly. I hugged my arms around my stomach, not even showing yet, but already feeling like my body was carrying something fragile and
When
valuable.
Tyler finally pulled up in his old blue pickup truck, I didn't run to him. I just stared. Because behind the wheel, he looked terrified too. He jumped out, rushed around the truck, and pulled me into a hug so tight my ribs hurt. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry." In that moment, I wanted to believe him. But then he stepped back, looked at me, and said the one sentence that changed everything. "My mom can't find out." I froze. What? He rubbed his face hard like he was trying to wipe away reality. "She'll freak out, Em. She'll kick me out too. She already thinks I'm messing up my life. If she finds out you're pregnant?" "You think this is the time to worry about your mom?" I snapped, then immediately felt guilty because my voice came out sharp. Tyler flinched. "I'm not saying I won't help. I'm saying we need a plan." A plan? I had just been thrown out of my home with my clothes in a garbage bag, and he was talking about a plan, like we were deciding where to eat dinner. I looked at him and realized something awful. He was scared of losing comfort. I had already lost everything. Still, I nodded, because what else could I do? He drove me to a cheap motel near the highway, one of those places with flickering lights and thin curtains that never fully close. He paid for 2 nights with cash and told me he'd figure something out by the weekend. Before he left, he placed his hands on my shoulders and said, "I love you. I'm not going anywhere." But as his truck disappeared into the darkness, a tight feeling twisted in my stomach, and I didn't know if it was instinct or fear or the baby. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time headlights swept across the motel curtains, I sat up, thinking it was my father's car coming to drag me back, or worse, someone coming to finish what they started. And then, around 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text. From my mother. Not, "Are you safe?" Not, "I'm sorry." Just 5 words. "Tell no one you lived here."
I stared at the screen, confused at first. Then it hit me. This wasn't just about kicking me out. They were trying to erase me, to make sure nobody could connect the good family on our street to the pregnant daughter sleeping in a motel. My hands started trembling again as I reread the message, because it wasn't a request. It felt like a threat. And right after that, another notification popped up. An email from my father. Subject line: final. I opened it, my breath shallow, my heart pounding like it was trying to warn me, and the first sentence made my stomach drop. If you contact anyone we know, we will tell them the truth, every ugly detail, and make sure you never show your face in this town again. I sat on the edge of that motel bed, staring at the wall, realizing the people who were supposed to protect me had just declared war on me. And somewhere deep inside, a cold thought formed, clear and sharp. If they were this desperate to hide my pregnancy, what else were they willing to do to keep their image clean? The next morning, I left the motel before the sun fully came up. I didn't pack slowly, I didn't shower, I didn't even drink the burnt coffee in the lobby, because my father's email kept replaying in my head like a warning siren. If you contact anyone we know. It wasn't just a threat to gossip, it was a promise to destroy me. I carried my trash bag out to the parking lot, and when I looked around, I realized something else. A dark sedan was parked across the lot, engine off, windows tinted. It could have been anyone, but it felt like someone watching. I told myself I was being paranoid. Pregnant, alone, exhausted. That's what fear does. It makes ordinary things look dangerous. Still, I walked faster. Tyler didn't answer when I called. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. My throat tightened. I texted, "Please call me. I need to know what's happening." No reply. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went to the one place I hadn't wanted to go. Tyler's house. It was a small home on the edge of town, the kind with an old swing on the porch and paint peeling around the windows. Normal. Simple. Not perfect. But it had warmth. It had life. I stood at the end of the driveway for a full minute, talking myself into walking up. My legs felt heavy, like they belonged to someone else. When I finally knocked, Tyler's mom opened the door. Her name was Karen. She looked at me and her face immediately shifted. Concern first, then confusion, then something sharper. "Emily?" she said. "Honey, what are you doing here so early?" I forced a smile that probably looked like pain. I just need to talk to Tyler." Karen's eyebrows pulled together. "Tyler's not here." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, and that hesitation was like a crack in glass. "He left last night," she said carefully, "after he got a call." "A call from who?" Karen's eyes flicked to the side, like she didn't want to say it out loud. "From your father." My body went cold. "My father called him?" I whispered. Karen stepped outside and closed the door behind her, lowering her voice. "He came by here. Not your father. A man in a suit. He asked for Tyler, said he was representing your family." Representing. Like I was a business problem, like my baby was a mess to be cleaned up. "What did he want?" I asked, my voice shaking. Karen swallowed. "He said Tyler needed to do the right thing, that this situation could ruin lives. He said you were unstable, that you were trying to trap Tyler, that you were lying." My vision blurred and I had to blink fast. "That's not true," I said, barely able to breathe. "I know," Karen said quickly, "but Tyler panicked. He wouldn't tell me everything. He just grabbed his keys and left."
"Where did he go?" I asked. Karen shook her head. "He said he needed time. He said he couldn't handle the pressure." Pressure. I almost laughed, but it came out like a sob. My hands went to my stomach without thinking. 15 hours ago, Tyler promised he loved me. Now he was gone, and my father had reached him before I could. Karen touched my arm gently. "Emily, are you pregnant?" I froze. The word sat between us like a bomb. Karen's voice softened.
Sweetheart, look at me. Are you? I wanted to deny it. I wanted to protect myself, but I was too tired, so I nodded. Karen inhaled sharply, then her eyes filled with tears. Oh, honey. She pulled me into a hug, and for the first time since the door slammed at my parents' house, I felt something close to safety, just for a second. Then Karen stepped back and looked me straight in the face. Did your parents send anyone else? She asked. I frowned. What do you mean? Karen's mouth tightened. This morning, she said slowly, I found a man standing near the end of my driveway, like he was waiting. My stomach twisted. A man? I repeated. Karen nodded. I asked if he needed help. He just smiled and said, "Tell Emily to make the smart choice." Then he walked away. My skin prickled with fear, because now it wasn't just my dad sending an email. It wasn't just a threat to ruin my name. There were people involved, strangers, and they were sending messages through other people, like I wasn't even human. Karen's eyes searched mine. Emily, listen to me. You can't stay in this town. Not like this. I don't have anywhere else, I whispered. Karen looked over my shoulder toward the street, like she was checking for someone. Then she leaned in and said something that made my blood run cold. Your father isn't trying to scare you. He's trying to corner you. My breath caught. And right then, my phone buzzed again. A new text. Unknown number. Only one sentence. We can arrange an appointment. You don't have to do this the hard way. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Karen saw my face and asked, "What is it?" I couldn't speak, because in that moment, I finally understood. They weren't just trying to erase me. They were trying to erase my baby, and they were getting closer. Karen didn't ask questions
The
twice.
moment she saw that text on my screen, her whole body shifted, like something protective woke up inside her. Go inside, she said fast. Now. I followed her into the house, my legs shaking so badly I almost tripped on the welcome mat. Karen locked the door behind us, then pulled the curtain slightly and glanced outside. The sedan, she murmured. My stomach dropped. The one from the motel? It's not just at the motel, she whispered. It's been circling this neighborhood since early morning. I swallowed hard. Why would they do this? Why would my parents? Karen raised her hand gently, cutting me off. Because they think fear will make you obey. She walked quickly into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small notebook and a pen. Do you have cash? She asked. A little, I said. Tyler paid for the motel. I have maybe $40. Karen shook her head as if that wasn't enough to even be called money. Then she grabbed her purse from the counter and started stuffing it. What are you doing? I asked. I'm driving you out of town, she said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. Somewhere safe, somewhere they can't reach you by lunch. My throat tightened. Karen, I can't. You can, she said firmly, and you will. She walked to the hallway and called out, Jason. A teenage boy, Tyler's little brother, appeared rubbing sleep from his eyes. What? He mumbled. Karen handed him the notebook. If anyone comes here asking questions, write down exactly what they say and what they look like, and do not open the door for anyone. Jason's eyes widened. Mom, what's going on? Nothing you need to worry about, Karen said, but her voice was tight. Just listen to me. Then she turned to me. Emily, she said softly, do you have your ID? I nodded. And your phone? She paused. Actually, keep your phone, but turn it off right now. My fingers trembled as I powered it down. The silence that followed felt wrong, like cutting the cord on the only thing connecting me to the world. Karen pulled a hoodie off a hook by the door and shoved it into my hands. Put this on, hood up. I did what she said.
We slipped out the back door into her yard. The grass was damp and the air smelled like early morning rain. Karen led me to her car parked behind the garage, hidden from the street. As soon as we got inside, she didn't start the engine immediately. She just sat there, both hands on the steering wheel, staring ahead. "Karen?" I whispered. She glanced at me. "I need you to tell me the truth," she said. "Did your parents ever talk about handling problems quietly?" My mouth went dry. I thought about my mother's cold whisper the night I left. "We can fix this." I thought about the unknown number. "We can arrange an appointment." And the word my father used in that email, "ugly detail." I swallowed. "I think they want me to get rid of the baby." Karen's jaw tightened. I knew it. My eyes filled with tears. I didn't even know they could do that. I mean, how could they? "People like that don't see this as a baby," Karen said quietly. "They see it as a headline." She started the car. We waited a few seconds. Then Karen slowly backed out. The second we pulled onto the street, I saw it. The dark sedan, parked half a block away. My heart slammed into my ribs. Karen's eyes flicked to the mirror. "Don't look at it too long," she whispered. "Act normal." Act normal, like I wasn't being hunted by my own family. We drove through 2 turns, 3 turns, trying to lose it, but every time I glanced at the mirror, the sedan stayed there. Not close enough to be obvious, close enough to be sure. Karen drove toward the highway, but at the last second, she took a sharp right into a gas station, pulling behind the building. She killed the engine. My hands were shaking so hard I had to press them between my knees. "They're following us," I whispered. Karen nodded once. "Yes." "What do we do?" Karen looked at me, and the calmness in her eyes scared me more than panic would have. "We make them think they lost you," she said. She popped the trunk. "Get out, now." I stepped out and followed her behind the building. Karen opened the trunk, shoved my trash bag into it, then grabbed a folded blanket and threw it on top like it was junk. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something that made my stomach twist. A prepaid phone. "Tyler bought this for his work," she said. "No tracking, no location." She handed it to me. "Listen carefully. There's a women's shelter 2 counties over. They have a secure intake process. I'm going to drive you there, but first we need to shake them." She paused, then added, "And Emily, you need to understand this." I looked at her. "If your father sent people to follow you," she said, "this isn't just reputation anymore. This is control, and control makes people dangerous." A car door slammed somewhere nearby. Karen's eyes snapped toward the street. Then we heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming around the corner of the gas station. My breath caught in my throat. Karen grabbed my arm and pulled me closer to the wall, whispering, "Don't move, don't make a sound." The footsteps stopped. A voice spoke calmly, like he wasn't doing anything wrong. "Emily," the man called out, not shouting, just certain. "I know you're here." My blood ran cold, because he didn't sound like someone guessing. He sounded like someone who had been paid to be sure. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it through the concrete wall. Karen's hand tightened around my wrist like a warning. "Don't breathe too big." The man's footsteps were slow, careful, like he had all the time in the world, like this was just another job. "Emily," he said again, almost gently, "you don't have to be scared. Your parents just want what's best for you." I felt my stomach twist with anger. What's best for me? No, what was best for them. Karen leaned closer and whispered, "When he turns the corner, you run to the car. Get in the back seat and lie down. Don't sit up, no matter what." My eyes widened. "What about you?" Karen's voice was firm. "I'll handle him." Before I could protest, the man's shadow stretched across the ground. Karen stepped out first. "Can I help you?" she called, her voice calm, like she was speaking to a stranger who asked for directions. There was a pause. Then the man said, "I'm looking for a young woman, 19, brown hair. She's in a bad situation." Karen laughed once, dry, sharp. You mean you're stalking a pregnant teenager at a gas station? His tone didn't change. Ma'am, this doesn't concern you. Step aside. Karen didn't move. It concerns me when someone threatens a girl who's done nothing wrong. The man sighed like he was tired of being challenged. Her father is prepared to help her, but she has to cooperate. That word hit me like ice. Cooperate. Like I was a hostage negotiating terms. Karen's voice stayed steady. If her father wants to help her, he can show up himself with a lawyer, not send a stranger. The man took one step closer. You're making this harder than it needs to be. And that's when Karen did something I didn't expect. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her keys, then held them up like she was about to toss them. The man's eyes flicked to them instinctively, and Karen threw them. Not at him, past him. The keys clattered across the concrete, and the man turned his head for half a second. That half second was everything. Karen spun toward me and hissed, "Run!" I moved. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I just ran like my life depended on it, because it did. I darted around the back of the building, my shoes slipping on wet pavement, and reached the car. The back door was unlocked. I threw myself inside and dropped flat across the seat, pressing my face into the fabric, trying to make myself smaller than air. I heard Karen's voice outside, louder now. "Back up," she shouted. "I'm calling the police." The man's voice stayed low. "If you call the police, you're going to regret it." Then came a sound that made my blood freeze, a sharp metallic click. I didn't see it, but I knew that sound. Karen's voice didn't shake, but it got colder. "You really want to point that at me in public? At a gas station with cameras?" Silence. Then the man exhaled like he'd been caught, and Karen said, clear as day, "You're done." A few seconds later, the front door opened and Karen jumped in the driver's seat. Her hands were steady on the wheel, but her eyes were blazing. "Seatbelt," she said fast. "Stay down." She started the engine and pulled out hard, tires crunching gravel. I stayed flat as we drove off. A minute later, Karen made two sharp turns, then merged onto the highway. Only when we were miles away did she glance at me and say, "You can sit up now." I slowly lifted my head, breath shaking. Was he... I couldn't finish. Karen's jaw tightened. He had a gun. My chest felt tight. Oh my God. Karen shook her head. "No, Emily, not oh my God. This is your father." The words landed like a slap. I stared out the window, watching the trees blur by. The man's voice replayed in my head. "Your parents just want what's best for you." No. They wanted silence. They wanted control. They wanted my baby gone and my shame hidden. We drove for 2 hours. No phone, no stops except once at a quiet rest area where Karen bought me water and a sandwich and made me eat like she was keeping me alive by force. When we finally reached the woman's shelter, the building looked plain. Brick walls, small windows, nothing dramatic. But to me, it looked like safety. Karen spoke to the staff at the front desk. They didn't ask me to explain everything. They didn't judge me. They just nodded and led me inside. And before Karen left, she pressed the prepaid phone into my palm again. "Listen," she said, "you don't call your parents. You don't call Tyler. You call me, and you call the shelter. That's it." I swallowed. Tyler, he really left? Karen's face softened for the first time. "He wasn't strong enough," she said. "But you are." I wanted to ask why she was doing this, why she cared. And maybe she saw the question in my eyes because she said quietly, "I was you once, not pregnant, but trapped, and nobody helped me." She squeezed my hand once, then turned to leave. That should have been the end of it, but life doesn't always end when you want it to. 3 days later, a staff member at the shelter approached me with a serious expression. "Emily," she said, "there's someone here to see you." My stomach dropped. "Who?" I whispered. She hesitated. A man, older. He says he's your grandfather. My breath caught. Grandpa Frank, the only person in my family who ever hugged me like I mattered. They led me to a small office, and when I opened the door, there he was, standing with a thick folder under his arm, eyes red like he'd been awake for days. He looked at me, then at my stomach, and his voice cracked. "I found you," he whispered. Tears flooded my eyes. He stepped closer and held up the folder. "I came as soon as I learned what they did," he said, "and I brought proof." "Proof of what?" I choked out. His face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. "Proof," he said, "that your parents didn't just kick you out to avoid judgment." He opened the folder and slid out a document with a letterhead and a signature at the bottom. "And proof," he added, "that they were prepared to do something much worse." I stared at the page, my hands shaking as I read the words. And in that moment, I realized this story wasn't just about me surviving. It was about exposing them. Because after everything, my parents didn't just want to erase me. They wanted to erase the truth. And Grandpa Frank was about to make sure they never could.